Hello and welcome back to Faffing with Friends. This week we're talking about physical and digital media, and I'm joined by Lawrence and Ivaylo.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, lads, are we ready to rumble?
I think so, yeah. I think we're ready to have a ideological debate that will shake the very foundations of this podcast and probably ruin our friendship. I'm ready for that.
I would like to apologize to all our patrons because I will not actually be able to drop the elbow on Lawrence. So, for anyone who wants to see that in the future, maybe we do a wrestling match. But for now, social distancing, pandemic, I cannot physically go against Lawrence, so I will have to go.
Exactly.
I will have to go on a rant about how much he is wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. As much as I've goaded him to fight me one-on-one, fist fight right now, let's go. He really can right now. He has an excuse for once.
I do have an excuse. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Lawrence, I'm very happy to allow you to go first on this because, yeah, just go on.
Since I'm tackling digital, I think a lot of it will be in counter to what came first, which is physical. So I think the best way is for you to start off.
Oh, you're being so nice. Okay, well, enough of the sugarcoating stuff. Right. Before I make any points that will, convince people that I'm some sort of caveman, I just want to say I'm perfectly aware that, obviously, it's the 21st century, it's 2021, we are living in an incredibly advanced technological age, and it's only going to get more and more advanced. No joke. Technology has jumped hugely in the last 20 years since at least I've been born. I remember when I was born, my parents used to have a big block phone, which was the equivalent of a mobile phone back then. And now currently we basically have a mini computer in our hands at all times. But for that particular reason, for the reason that technology is advancing at the speed that it is, I like the majority of my media in physical form because of that. Because I feel like the more technology advances and the more we are leaning towards the digital side of things, the more value one can inherently place on the physical media that it came from. That's my opening point, and that's pretty much what... Obviously, I know about technology and its advancements. I know that in my lifetime, we're probably going to go towards a more technological society with each passing year. But again, obviously, that's my statement.
Okay, I mean, for me, it's quite simple why I prefer digital in almost all cases. Now, I will say almost. Later on, I will touch on the few exceptions I accept. But the reason I prefer digital, usually always, is just convenience to start with. I very much appreciate the convenience of not having to do what I had to do when I was younger, say when a new video game would come out, where I would have to go from store to store, see if they had the game in stock, have to be badgered with the whole, would you like a game store card so you can be a member and points will save and maybe you'll get 10% off in 2 years of buying games from us, it's pretty good. I hated that entire experience, and a lot of people I know used to go to midnight launches. I did once, and it was miserable. It's England, it was cold. Midnight came and went, and I still didn't have my game. I don't enjoy the whole going into store for media experience. I don't mind it for something like clothes because you get to try clothes. You get to wear them sometimes, after you've bought them and leave the place dressed in the thing you got. But when I would have to go to a store for a new game release, it would just be this horrible runaround where if the store didn't have it, I'd have to find one that had it in stock. If the store had it and they gave me a copy and it didn't work when I got home, I'd have to go all the way back to this nearest shopping center to be please give me a disc that isn't completely destroyed and doesn't work on my PlayStation. It was just the most annoying, troublesome process. And for me, that is the number one thing that digital has sort of fixed. I don't have to go to the store just to buy a video game anymore. And that really is helpful. It probably would have been even more helpful for young me who, had to travel a long distance and get someone to take me with them or go with me because I was too young. It was just always a terrible experience. And I always hated the in-store experience in game stores. Like I mentioned with the whole trying to sell you memberships and be do you have a membership card? Do you want one? And, I know that they're incentivized to do that because I think they get bonuses if they get enough customers to do that. But it was just
as someone who does have a CEX card and is a proud member of CEX,
oh god,
I can genuinely say that I don't really agree with you. I do believe that I'm all for that experience. I feel like it's one of the better experiences which you can do. I remember distinctly. I remember when Red Dead Redemption 2 launched, and I didn't know which store to go to, and I had to go all the way to Elephant and Castle. I got it on launch day. It was a pretty great experience to have like something literally like fresh off the printer. You know, I went and I got it. It was pretty awesome. It worked fine. But you know, I understand your points, and I do believe that some games are better played digitally. I do believe, for example, that if you're a PC gamer and you have the availability of Steam and you have all those wonderful things, you can absolutely just like build up your entire Steam library with that. But
I mean, if we're touching on PC gamers, you pretty much don't even have a choice now if you're on PC.
Yeah, you really don't.
Because if you buy a physical copy, they give you the box, but in the box is almost never a disc. It's usually a code that you then go redeem on Steam or other like Origin, Uplay, whatever.
Yeah.
But another thing as well, I remember when I was a lot younger, and I always used to game on PC before I started getting consoles as well. I bought Doom 3, right? It's a game I was really excited for, looking forward to. When I got it, and I got this PC massive box with a copy inside, it had a CD key. Now, this CD key was limited to 5 activations ever. So I bought this game physically, have it still. I cannot play it if I don't crack the game now because I've changed PCs lots of times. Hard drives have been destroyed or like corrupted and I had to like change them. I had to redeem the code multiple times. So even though I bought the game physically on PC, it's now just a box. I can't redeem it, so I may as well just, not have done that.
That's precisely one of my points when it comes to games. I used to buy CD games way back, and I've mostly been a PC gamer all my life more than a console gamer. Like, the last console I had was the PlayStation 2, and I gave that away, I think, in 2009 or 2010. Console. It was a great console, but, it had its moments, and I sort of switched to PC midway through having that. And I just preferred PC. It just had, for me, it had better graphics, it had better storage, and I could just sit at my desk and not have to have it go downstairs and plug it to the TV. And if my parents wanted to watch something, that would have been annoying. Or if my brother wanted to watch, I don't know, his nursery rhymes or whatever. But I also wanted to point out, before I come back to Steam, with the way things are going, with brick and mortar stores like GameStop not being able to operate, and apart from their little fluke in the stock market, right, it's just becoming more convenient to buy digital formats of games. You can keep them pretty much forever so long as you can remember your login details to Steam or Epic Games or any other Uplay, for example. And you could just download them on any device with your account if your hard drive gets damaged or corrupted, or if you want to switch to a new computer or whatever. You always have that option.
So in the case of like what happened with Doom 3 for me, you wouldn't have that problem if Steam had existed at the time, because I would have just had the game on Steam, and if a hard drive got corrupted, I'd log into the new hard drive on Steam and unlimited re-downloads.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only thing, I still have my PC games, like the CD versions of them, like I don't even use them anymore. They're just in a bag in my room. I mean, I like the artwork. That's about it, I think. That's the thing that's left remaining. And with new computers, barely any new computers are coming out with a CD drive.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to buy one with a CD drive, you're going to have to pay a bit more money, or you're going to have to make your own customized PC and then add that in or whatever. I mean, mine has it because it's old. But then that's it. I mean, what can you do? If the technology is moving towards digital, then you're sort of being forced into accepting that.
You did mention one thing, which brings up one of the first exceptions I'd like to bring up for Ivaylo as well, so he knows that I am with him on this one single thing.
Go on, sir.
You mentioned that some of your games have artwork. Now, one of the few exceptions I make is if a game I really like or really want has an art book included with its physical edition. Now, I don't know if Ivaylo ever saw it, but Shadow of the Colossus used to have an art book edition, and I did get the art book edition. And that is one of the few physical editions of a game where I'm really happy I did, because I love art books. I love having concept art from the devs, seeing, some of the ideas and how they develop through production and pre-production. And that's one of the few exceptions I'll make. If there's an edition of something that I'm buying physically that includes something physical that you can't get elsewhere, and that offers extra, that gives you something more to experience in that either game or whatever else it will be, if it's like an art book. I like that. I like supplementary materials if I'm going to get something physically.
Especially with Shadow's case, where you can see the concept art of all the discarded Colossi, which were originally meant to be 24. Some trivia for you guys over there who still like Shadow of the Colossus. But yeah, I do agree with both of you on both statements. I do think that PC especially is the pioneering pioneering method with which we are going to just go towards a more digital society, and especially with games. I haven't seen like a disc for like a PC game in so long. However, if you're a primary console gamer like myself, I do very much enjoy still having the physical copy of the disc. I still do enjoy stacking them up. I still enjoy collecting them. I have a row on my library shelf of them, which I believe Lawrence has as well. I'm not entirely sure, but he does as well. And yeah, I mean, I very much enjoy the whole experience of collecting and just having something which, let's be honest, unless you're an incredibly sloppy person, I doubt that physical is going to be much of a problem to you, because the one thing you have to do is you have to keep it protected. That's the one downside which people might say, oh, well, like, we don't want to bother with discs. Like, you have to keep your discs and you have to keep your stuff safe, because otherwise, if you break it, that's it. It's out the window. Now, the primary reason, you guys said that, like, when you have games on hard drives and stuff like that, and on consoles, what happens when the machine just dies? Like, I'm very concerned, or like, if I lose my password to my PSN, or like, anything like that happens. I'm just very, I don't know, I'm very distrustful, because like, it's a machine. It's gonna break one day. Like, I don't want to lose everything I've had over there.
I can give you one example.
Yeah, please do.
Back in the PS3 era of games, I got my account hacked once.
Yeah, you see? How did you recover it?
All I had to do was call Sony. They asked me my security questions. I got it back with all my games. Fair. So, like, yes, it's possible. It can happen. It happened to me once. Yeah. But because I remembered the security questions and, like, the details and the password and stuff, it wasn't as difficult as some people make it out to seem to, like, recover it. Obviously, if you're the kind of person who, like, doesn't remember the passwords or write them down or anything, then, yeah, you might run into a problem there. But that's kind of the same with everything, where you need to remember your safety details. Like that, you know, if you forget your PIN for your bank card, it's kind of useless, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I mean, it's just down to personal preference on that front. You know, it's also something that I very much, as I mentioned, that I enjoy doing as a hobby. I go out, I pick out a game, I grab it, and especially with games, I've noticed a very interesting trend, especially for the older generation of games. Like Joe mentioned, having a PS2. Some PS2 games, which are considered to be like prime-time PS2 games, like classics, they're very hard to get in physical form, which in turn obviously raises up their monetary value. And another big reason why I enjoy physical media is that, again, I'm making an investment into the future with it. Because we already mentioned...
Can I say something?
Yeah,
I kind of want to directly attack that.
Of course, go on.
So, one of my biggest hatreds of the video game industry, specifically when it comes to physical media, is things stop being made after a while.
Yes,
certain
absolutely.
consoles and systems just stop existing.
And
you
controllers
can't get
as
new
well.
ones anymore.
And
controllers.
Yeah.
One of my biggest issues is when I want to go get something, if it's only available to me physically, I'm going to have to go pay some crazy person on eBay like £600 for one game on the Xbox or PS2 or PS1 because I wanted to play it again.
Yep.
Which to me is sort of what pushed me into, if emulation is possible on my PC and this thing isn't being made legally and officially and sold anymore by its actual developers or owners, I have zero issue with just emulating.
Well, that's why you should have had it in the first place. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's where the value comes from.
That's really dumb.
I mean, you shouldn't
to be able to appreciate an art form, you should not have to have been there and bought the game in the first year before they stopped producing it.
Well, that's kind
of elitist and stupid.
Let's just say I'm prepared for the next few years of games.
Okay, I see.
Because, you know, like, I know exactly what you mean. I wanted to play Persona 3 and Persona 4, and they're Atlas games, and they're absolutely incredibly rare to find these days. And I go on eBay, and I'm seeing them for like £100 for the physical copy, and I'm like, okay, obviously, like, I'm not gonna be able to, but that just motivates me more to invest in what I have now, so that in the future it's gonna have like some insane value. And, you know, obviously I'm not gonna sell it because I don't feel like selling my stuff, but, you know, it's very appealing. It's very appealing.
That's an extra problem for me. I don't look at my media as investments. I'm never going to sell my games if I do own them. So that doesn't really mean much to me. I don't care if the value goes up because I don't intend to sell things as long as they work.
Shit, you've just blown my mind. Wow. But yeah, obviously. Joe, what about yourself?
Yeah, I want to say that another aspect of it. Well, there's two arguments I want to make. One, that when it comes to digital gaming, there's the social side of it. I think I'm friends with Lawrence and maybe a few other people on Steam, and I can see what games they've played, how many hours they've played, what reviews they've left. Because so that could in general allow me to get a better idea of how good a game is, or if I want to play multiplayer with them and so on. And the other argument is that there's potentially an environmental argument to make here. That digital is way better than physical, especially if games are being like mass produced.
Well, actually, that is another point I had for later, and that's physical is guaranteed, even if not in your lifetime, because I know you and me would probably never throw things away once we bought them. But at some point, they're going to end up in a landfill. Doesn't matter how long in the future. And video game boxes and film boxes and all this packaging and crap, they are terrible. They are plastic. They will degrade in like thousands and thousands, millions of years, depending on the kind of plastic. And it's like, that at some point after you're dead, everything you own is probably going to at some point end up in a landfill. And that really does annoy me. It's like I have all these packages, all these little like PlayStation 4 boxes, where it's like I could have fit all these games in like a tiny sleeve, but they still sold it to me with this big case that I now have to destroy.
You can always pass it on to the next generation, Lawrence. Come on.
Again, you cannot control what happens to them that far in the future. Once you are dead, you are out of the equation. At some point, they will probably end up in a landfill.
I mean,
that's true, but you could always the responsible thing would always to be to recycle things that you don't need, absolutely. And hopefully at some point we can all
how much can you recycle? Like plastic is still not like an easy recycling process.
Yeah,
either.
It is still a long way before.
And that's what all video game packaging is. Every single video game box is just hardcore plastic. That's all.
That's right, and that's part of the reason why I stopped. Because so as soon as I gave away my PlayStation 2, I've never bought a physical game again, whether for PC or anything else since. Mm-hmm. Right, it's all just been digital, and I preferred it that way. It's easier. Like, okay, I've got my library on Steam and Epic Games, and it's not as nice as having it physically and just looking at it and maybe showing it off, but. But that's the compromise I've had to make, and I've convinced myself that it's the moral thing to do as well, not just a convenient thing to do. I mean, I don't know about if you guys agree with that.
I'm just being tagged team over here, man. You guys are just destroying me.
Sorry, I don't mean to do that. Don't mean to.
The future is now, old man.
Literally.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Literally, the future is indeed now.
But the one thing, if we want to, like, I'm sure you guys may have a lot more to say about games, but one place I would agree with you though would be books.
Yes,
because as you might know, I have a lot of books. I think I have nearly, if not exactly 1,000, but slightly over 1,000 physical books just in my room.
Congratulations.
And my room is not that big. Just so think about how I've managed to store it all, right? It's crazy, right? And that was because I was spending my, whatever leftover maintenance fees I had, I was just buying books with it, whether to read or just to read later. And I've got a lot of read later books, right? But I've got way more ebooks on my Kindle. It's just more convenient. Like, Amazon always has this thing where they'll offer you pretty decent books that will be really expensive in paperback or hardback for free on Amazon Kindle store, right? And that's crazy. So I've got, I think, I don't know, thousands of books on my Kindle that obviously probably won't read all of them in my lifetime. But the fact that I have access to it, and I could just take this anywhere with me. I could take a whole library, probably bigger than the Library of Alexandria, pretty much anywhere with me, so long as I have a charge on my tablet, and so long as the solar flare EMP in the future doesn't destroy all electricity, right? Then I'm pretty much good with ebooks. And I'll be honest with you, I have physical copies of books on my shelf. Sometimes I'll be too lazy to get up from my bed to go and get it. And I've got it on my Kindle, so I just grab my Kindle and read it on my Kindle. And it's easier than having to keep a really tough binding open.
When we were all in university was when I first ever bought a Kindle, right? Year one. And I found that I started reading a lot more. Now, I always loved reading, and I read, books often enough that I had like a good repertoire of books in my head that I'd read. But once I got a Kindle, it started getting to the point where I'd read like 100 to 200 a year, because I had so many times where I can't carry this massive tome, but having this tiny Kindle that's pretty much in my side pocket, I can pull it out anywhere, And I think that's another, like, for books specifically, massive advantage. It's just, I found myself reading in places where I didn't want to have a big book, where I couldn't even afford to. Because like when I'd go to uni, my bag would be full of the textbooks that were necessary for whatever we were doing that day. So I couldn't like fit in, if I wanted to read a large book, that as well in the bag. So I'd have my little Kindle in my hands. I'd be reading on like my hour-and-a-half journey to and from uni. And that would be great. I'd get so much more reading done every year because of the convenience of having this little booklet that had, like you said, I have also thousands of books on it. And I even found that during our course and our degree, a lot of the books I had to read and study in my lectures and in my seminars, they were given to me for free on the Kindle. And I was like, yes, this has saved me, a poor, struggling student, quite a bit of money, because books are not cheap, especially not the larger ones.
Exactly.
I personally... No, go on, Joe. Go on.
Sorry, I'll be very quick. The one exception I'll make, to agree with Ivaylo's earlier point, is that I have two rare copies. I have a first edition Dostoevsky that my dad somehow grabbed at I don't know what it was, like a yard sale or something. And the cover's starting to come off, but I think it would still be probably valuable in some way. And I have got a Egyptian archaeology book that there's like 30,000 copies of. It's out of print, and it was printed like 50, 60 years ago, right? And those are the most valuable books that I have commercially, right? Sentimentally, the most valuable books for me are my Lord of the Rings books, my Harry Potter books that I bought each time they were released, right? And my Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire books, probably. I mean, I've got a lot of books. I don't want to go through all of them, but they're the most valuable to me, personally, right? And maybe Frank Herbert's Dune and Oscar Isaac's... sorry, not Oscar Isaac. Isaac Asimov's Foundation.
Oscar Isaac, the best-selling author.
I'm getting Dune and Foundation mixed up in my head. But yeah, so I'll hand it over to Ivaylo. But that's my only argument when it comes to physical. Like, I've got probably way too many books, and my mum always complains, like, dude, you've got too many books. Like, try and sell some. And I'm like, hell no, I'm never going to sell any of these. And I've said to my brother, because my brother's going to do hopefully English at A-level. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I've got a whole library. If you want to study anything or just read anything, just come to my room. I've always made that offer, but I said, just come to my room and just take whatever you want and stuff like that. So he's got that benefit that I didn't have when I was growing up. I think when I was growing up his age, when I was 16, I maybe only had 50 books. And that was still a lot, probably. But like when I was 12, I had 0 books, apart from like maybe a few.
Yeah, I think in my current apartment, I have about 50 books physically, and that's it.
Yeah.
Joe's doing the right thing and investing in the future by offering his library to his younger brother. But, so. I do want to say, I absolutely hate Kindle. I genuinely think Kindle is the worst way I can possibly consume books. I absolutely hate reading on it. I hate scrolling with just one finger. I can't seem to focus. Like you mentioned the benefits you received during your academic years. I never once used a Kindle in my academic years, and I was very happy because the moment I tried, I simply just could not focus. Like, I need the book to be in my hands, I need to feel the cover, and I need to turn the pages with my hand and to highlight and to just write all over it in order to focus and to get my points across.
Okay, but we can agree that is a very person-to-person
It's a very
preference.
Yeah, absolutely, but you can't ignore it. You can't just say Kindle is the god of books. Like, it's just not how it works for some people, and I'm one of them. And I also
if we're talking about weird neuroses, I'll have one to add as well, but then you can tell me it's just up to me. No, you continue for now, but I'm telling you now.
And you mentioned like learning, and like I enjoy trips to the library. I am an alumnus of my university, and if I could, I would subscribe to Senate House, but it's quite a hefty fee. And I do just enjoy going, traveling, sitting down in the library, going there and grabbing different books off different shelves, which is surprisingly how I wrote my very first dissertation. I went to the library just to explore and just to see what's there physically. I didn't go with any plan or like what to get. I went with like one book in mind which I got, and then around that book I literally just went around the shelves and I picked up some more amazing reading material which turned out to be quite important for my dissertation. So with that in mind, that's just how I personally study when it comes to books. In terms of
that point,
go on.
That point I absolutely agree with. I think you're definitely right when it comes to studying. I much prefer to have a physical book. In fact, when it came to... there were some texts that I would have on my Kindle because they were just, like Lawrence said, too heavy to carry to uni. Mm-hmm. But our uni library, you've all been there, and Senate House, they're great places. I've got fond memories of studying there and just on my own most of the time, and just having books out, having the ability to just go and scout for books that I didn't probably even think existed, and then suddenly coming upon some gems for my research.
Right there.
In my
really
3 years at university, I never once set foot in the uni library.
Wow, you missed out, bro. You missed out.
I went to Senate House many times, though. I did like Senate House. My problem always became, again, convenience, which is I hate travel. And I super hate travel in London, which is a horrible cesspool of disease and disgusting crap on the public transport, which is even more of an issue now with the current pandemic. So I try to avoid public transport as often as I can, and going to the library always meant I would have to spend like an hour or half an hour on the tube.
It's not that bad to travel, Lawrence.
It's
okay. It's okay to
Get
travel.
away from me. Stop infecting me with your disgusting germs.
You know what you can do on the train, Lawrence? You can read a physical book.
I was going to say, that's what I did. On my commute, yeah. But we've obviously got our own Ned Ward here with Lawrence. I mean, he's not wrong. I do have to agree, especially the Central Line.
Yeah.
Some days it was just hell.
And let's save that for a different episode.
Yes. One hill I am absolutely going to die on when it comes to physical media and books in particular. Graphic novels, manga, any comic books.
You have hit the one exception I'm willing to make.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you. At least we can agree on something.
I do believe graphic novels and comics will never look as good on a digital screen because they're usually scanned, and they're usually not scanned very well.
And you cannot tell a very important distinction in comics. You cannot tell where some panels end and others begin, which is an absolutely essential skill when you're reading graphic narrative, because you need that intervention in between the panels. It's called the gutter for any enthusiasts over there. It helps you process the action and to place the events in order and what's happening in between those events. And on digital, it just looks absolutely horrible because they're usually just scanned vertically, and I absolutely hate it. I love when I open up a freshly made graphic novel or manga and the art just jumps out at me. The most recent one I had was gone.
I was going to ask, did all three of us study graphic narratives as part of our English degree?
I think
you're so unfortunate. Me and Joe loved that module.
But I wrote my master's dissertation on graphic narrative, and I was helped in it, and I read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. Amazing reads. And the most recent graphic novel I got was Junji Ito's Uzumaki. I know Lawrence is familiar with Junji Ito.
Oh, yeah.
And the artwork, just seeing it jump out of the page, all that horrific Lovecraftian kind of art is just...
And even especially Junji Ito does this. He has a trick to how you read his pages, where he will leave a page at the moment of highest tension, and that is when you have to flip over.
Yes.
And that is something you literally don't get in the physical version.
Yes.
The way he spaces them, the way your eye is supposed to follow the page, it's masterful, and I do agree that is one of the few art forms of media where I can't get the same effect from digital.
Absolutely. And go on, Joe.
Sorry, when it comes to graphic novels and comic books, I have to agree with both of you. I wouldn't mind reading on a digital device, but I just can't stand it sometimes, and I prefer the physical. I mean, the artwork is way better. It's just the experience of reading a comic book in physical form is much better, and it's just that I probably can't afford it as much as I can anything else. So, but one of my friends, before he moved out of London, he very generously gave me 200 copies of comics, and I was like, dude, this is the most generous donation I've ever received. What? Are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I can't, it's easier for me not to have to take them with me. So, that was great. So once I can have more of an income, I'll probably buy more comic books. But for the time being, the few that I have, I'm very content with.
And you also mentioned the whole idea of carrying back text which you can't find physically. And, stuff in libraries. Center House has this massive archive, which obviously you can't take it out of. You have to just order it, and you have to sit there and you have to use it because you can't take it out. And I find that personally fascinating, As someone who's done history, I'm absolutely obsessed with, old books and stuff which you can't find anymore. There's, only one edition of, Joe, you mentioned your copy of Dostoevsky, right? It's something which... can't be found anywhere again. I would very much hope to see it one day, but it's just I'm very fascinated by that, because you go and you see.
Can I mention something? You've created a problem for me here.
I'm sorry, Lawrence.
Going back to manga, specifically, I know I got you into JoJo. Yes,
Yes, you did.
say
You got
that's
me
true?
into JoJo. Yes, yes.
Okay. Did you know that back when I first read JoJo, you couldn't officially get it outside of Japan
Oh yeah, absolutely.
in any translated
Absolutely.
format?
They've just started the translation.
Do you know how infuriating for me it was having to hunt down weird scanned pirate copies on the internet of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure so that I could read
you
it
did. And,
for an entire decade until it finally started getting some level of localization?
I've been looking to get Steel Ball Run physically. And
I
can't get it. You can't get it anywhere yet. So
despise that problem. That is the biggest issue when it comes to like things being either low stock or just not available where you live. I hate it, and it makes physical that much more annoying to me because I had to read JoJo Digital for an entire decade plus until I could finally see a physical copy anywhere where I live.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry you had to go through that. But again, I do love the fact that as a historian, I can appreciate the historical value of something physical. Like, you know, if you get me a script of like an original Shakespeare play, like one of the folios, for example, I would just be like over the moon with it. Like, you know, you can't get it anywhere else. But I do know your plight, and I understand your pain. But, you know...
Yeah, my problem is more like I think everyone should have access to at least a version of something.
Yes.
And sometimes the only way for that to happen is digital.
Through digital, yeah. I absolutely agree.
So, another aspect I wanted to talk about was when it comes to music, I've barely... I mean, my parents... Okay, let me put it this way. Whether it's music or movies, way back when you had VHS and cassette tapes, we used to have a lot of them. So I still have in the shed boxes of VHS
yeah, my parents
movies.
used to as well.
Exactly. But once the transition was made to CDs, it was only my parents who would buy albums and stuff like that. I never really got into it because by the time I really got into music, I had the classic Apple iPod, which only had like 20 gigabytes. But back then that was crazy. You could have like, I don't know, 2,000 songs or more on it. Yeah. So I would just download digital and then put it on my iPod because I could take it anywhere with me and listen to it, right? I still do that. I now have a better iPod. But when it comes to my music, whether I usually use my phone or whatever else on Spotify or Amazon Music or whatever, or iTunes. I just find it much more convenient. I can't honestly tell you when the last time I bought an album was. I don't remember. Maybe I bought one for a friend, but that was it. Although I bought something on Amazon last year, and then they accidentally sent me the Hobbit soundtrack. So that's the closest it gets to it. And they said you can keep it for free, which I was like, oh, that's great. I'm going to donate this to someone.
I'm going to let Lawrence speak because he's about to call me a very big.
Okay, yeah, no.
Go on, Lawrence. You give your viewpoints.
Yeah, no. I'll start off with Ivaylo's a massive hipster. We'll see why. He'll get to it. I don't even need to tell you why.
My god. Go on.
But for me, I always liked listening to music. I love a lot of different genres. I love music as a thing to listen to while doing other things. It's very calming. It keeps me focused. I always despised buying music physically. It was the worst to me because I like listening to music super on the go or when I am traveling to keep my mind off how much I dislike traveling. So one thing I could never do back when I had to buy all of my albums physically, I couldn't take them with me on the train. I couldn't take them with me on the bus or long drives or any of that. So I wouldn't have the music specifically when I wanted and needed the music most. So the moment streaming music or just downloading it, like Joe said, on an iPod or an MP3 player became a thing, that was Nirvana for me. Because finally I could take my like 7,000 plus albums of music with me anywhere if I had enough storage or if I had access to the internet. And that was just like, yes, I can finally listen to music when I'm hurtling on the tube towards university and I have nothing else to do. And it was just... what an improvement to my life.
It's really bad that when you mentioned Nirvana, I thought you were going to talk about the band. But, it's okay. we move. Now, I want to say, I'm not a hipster. I mean, maybe, but I do want to say I get both of your points, and obviously I do appreciate Spotify, I do appreciate Apple Music, We are on there, by the way, check us out there. But,
yeah.
I do appreciate Spotify, and I do appreciate the iPods, because when I was younger, when I was still traveling to school, sixth form, even uni at some points, I always used to have an iPod as well, It's a little iPod Nano, which still works, I still have it, and it still has a bunch of songs on it. But the thing is, the more I grew up, the more my music taste and more my music library kept on expanding and expanding and expanding. I loaded that iPod Nano with so much music that it's completely full to the brim. I'm currently in the process of doing that to my phone right now, which is kind of bad because my Spotify is like 3,000 songs long. It is quite the inconvenience when it comes to storage, and obviously, I need my phone for other stuff, pictures, documents, more important stuff than one would say music, right? And then, when I was 16, my life kind of changed, because, here, I'm about to go on a little anecdote. Back in Bulgaria, we go, and my mum, we go out to clean the attic, and we stumble upon a collection of my mum's old vinyl records. At this moment in time, I have no idea what they are. I've heard of them, I've never actually seen one live before, and I'm absolutely enamored by them. I'm like, what is this? It's just so nice, and it's so well preserved still to this day. This is ancient history. This is 1970s. And then, the same year, a friend of mine's like, oh yeah, I got some spare vinyl records. Do you want them for some reason? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll have them. But I found myself suddenly the host of all these insane vinyl records. And so I come back to London with a box of vinyl records. I sit down and I'm like, okay, what do I do with them? And Mama's like, well, get a record player. So I get a record player, and the first album I had was Nirvana's Nevermind, which again, going back to your mention of Nirvana. And I play that record, and the minute Smells Like Teen Spirit, the main opening riff opens, I'm just like, this is amazing. This works. This is 30 years old, and it still works amazingly. The sound is better. The whole feel of it just feels better to me, bro. I don't know, I can't explain it. And ever since then, I've just been collecting vinyls. And, Joe mentioned he doesn't know the last time he bought an album. I bought an album yesterday. But, it's just I do love the fact that vinyl is making a comeback a bit. People are still going back and collecting it. I absolutely love vinyls. Liam Gallagher's As You Were became a best-selling album purely on vinyl sales alone in, I believe, 2018, 2019, somewhere around that time. I'm not entirely sure. But, it's just another medium where I just really enjoy collecting. It looks great when you have a collection of vinyls. It's always a great talking point. Just like any physical media, really. Anyone can come to your house and you can be like, oh, look, you have vinyls. I've never seen those in ages, and you can just always strike up a conversation. And I make it a rule to only get on vinyl what I consider to be amazing albums. Obviously I'm not gonna get something like Where's Your Head At on vinyl, you know what I mean? But it's just another hobby, and I really enjoy listening to it. And in moments and times when I fill up my iPod or when I fill up my phone and there's just no more gigabytes, I can always go home and I'll always have those vinyls. And I can guarantee you, Lawrence, even if I die, those vinyls are still going to function years after I'm dead. And they're still going to be used years after I'm dead. But yes, I need to breathe.
Now, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, do you now understand why I think Ivaylo's the biggest hipster I've ever met?
My lord.
We are talking about a man who is collecting vinyls in the year of our Lord, 2021.
They're making a comeback.
You see this? He's talking about the comeback of vinyl. This is what I mean. This is what I've been putting up with since university, everyone. Now you know.
Oh, dear me. But,
this does bring me to what is my weird neurotic hang-up, which I cannot get over, and which affects all physical media for me. I have a big fixation on keeping my space clean. Now, one thing that I despise to the point where it will mess up things I'm doing, where it will take away my attention from what I'm focusing on, clutter and space being used up by things that I don't need to be there, drives me insane. It is to the point where it will actually affect my day-to-day functioning. If I see clutter or there's dust on something or it's not clean or it will make me go crazy. Now, I already live in an apartment. My room isn't the biggest. It's pretty big for most London apartments. Not that big. If I had all the video games, for example, that I own digitally on Steam and my current consoles physically, I would be losing about half of my room in physical storage to these video games.
Fair.
And these video games would be on those shelves, and every single time I clean the ones I already have on shelves, I have to take them out one by one, individually, case by case, and clean them. Because otherwise I'm not going to feel like I did a good job keeping this area clean. That, to me, is an obstacle to owning more physical media, unlike any other. I despise giving up space in my room. I like having a large open area in the middle of the room where I can just do anything. I like the walls not being cluttered. I like not having many shelves. I'm a very minimalist kind of person when it comes to my living area. And having too many physical pieces of media will completely destroy that.
See, I disagree with that. I completely disagree with that because I do think that it's very down to organizational skills. You know, obviously you say you don't have the space, but obviously, like, don't obviously get more stuff than you can have. You know, that's something that's, you know, it's a thing. Like, don't, everything that I have, all the physical media that I have, all my records, all my books, all my video games, they all have their place in my room. And obviously, like, the only thing I agree with you is that I've used up my bookcase and I have no more space for books. So that's really a struggle. That's really a struggle I do sympathize with. But, you know, I've figured out, I've solved that by taking books into different rooms, putting them somewhere else. You know, you're never gonna have, like, you just have to be organized with your stuff, I feel like, you know, unless you're, like, obviously, like, a hoarder and, like, you're surrounded by it and there's, like, no space for you to step on. But, you know,
that's precisely what I try to avoid.
Yeah, obviously, like, I'm not...
I hate having space taken.
I'm not like that at all, but, like, I do think that, like, if you're good at organizing, and again, my main point from earlier, if you're good at preserving your stuff, like... Because I see so many people who are like, oh yeah, I can't get physical because it's just gonna break. No, it's not gonna break if you take care of it. It's okay to take care of your stuff and to make sure it's neat and to make sure it's organized. And hey, you know what? On a bored day in a pandemic at 3 a.m. when you have nothing to do, those vinyls which you haven't organized since 2016 are gonna look mighty nice to you. Let me tell you. But yeah.
See, when it comes to cleanliness and organization, I also prefer things to be clean. But the thing is, I don't mind having, not so much clutter, but I don't mind having all of these books surrounding my room because it puts me in a, like, when we first moved in here and when we used to live in Sheffield, like, my room was almost always bare. It would have wallpaper and that was it. Like, I wasn't even allowed to have posters up, right? So, and then once I got older, like, I maybe have 1 or 2 posters up in my room, maybe 3, some religious iconography and stuff like that. But then the rest of it is books. And one other thing I forgot to mention about books is that I have a Bible collection because I'm Catholic, right? And I have everything from the King James Version to the Catholic Bible, like the one of the versions, I'm not going to say which one, doesn't matter really, Jerusalem Bible and so on. And I think I have a fair few, probably more than I need, but because of, you know, certain things about translation and so on, it's just better to, for comparison purposes, have different versions. And when I was thinking about this, to bring it up, I thought about how technology has allowed for physical consumption. So if we go back several centuries, you know, we'll go to a time when the people who could read, right, the people who were literate, before the printing press, they would maybe have access to physical books that would have been scribed by monks in monasteries, who knows where, right? And it would have taken a long time. It would have been a very strenuous effort to copy books over, and then to just usually, you know, I mean, it probably would have been rare to sell them on, but whatever.
Mass distribution did not exist.
Yeah,
exactly. Mass distribution did not exist. That's the point. But as soon as the printing press came into the scene, Gutenberg printed the Bible, and then everything else was history, right? So we've all studied the early modern period. We know how there was a huge increase in books and book sales and interest in having physical media to consume. And literacy, exactly. So it's great that technology has allowed, and it's also ironic that technology has allowed for physical consumption, even when it comes to digital media before, for example, Steam and so on, or before streaming. You had CDs or whatever, and if it wasn't for the technology that allowed for physical consumption, that wouldn't have been possible, right? So I thought that was an important point to make because it's a bit ironic, but also I think what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. Maybe with Elon Musk's brain chip, one day we can have all of our books, music, video games, and movies and whatever in our brain.
Leave this planet. I would simply leave this planet if that happens.
Watch, I'm going to be an early adopter and be like, Ivaylo, look at this. I'll start playing his favorite vinyl from like my ears.
Yes, exactly. No. Well, I was going to say it. Mine's like a synthesis of both of yours. I'll have everything in that chip, put it in my brain, and then leave the planet because I have no reason left.
Oh, because God, I can't wait to listen to Faffing with friends on my brain chip. That's gonna be great.
Yes. That's gonna happen one day. You wait and see. You know the Time Machine, the movie, and obviously the book as well. But the movie where when he goes down to the underground, or whenever he discovers the archive, and he has to spin those CDs to get like a playing of the history of humanity ever since he left whenever it was his timeline. When Ivaylo was talking about having vinyls, it kind of reminded me of that. How they're gonna in the future maybe Ivaylo, your great grandchildren will inherit your vinyls and then they'll have to spin them on a disc. I mean, to have to listen to them. That would be crazy, wouldn't it?
Again, that's something which I absolutely love.
Or they're just gonna play frisbee with them because they won't know what it is.
You know that might be a possibility.
Oh my God, this is
catch boy.
This is just torture right here. But I'm very glad you guys mentioned the early modern period. I do agree with you that the printing press was an insane creation which allowed for mass consumption and mass distribution. I very much remember reading Philip Sidney's Arcadia, and when I was researching him, it turned because it's dedicated to the Countess of Pembroke, and it's obviously known as the Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia, and common people, like the usual commoners like me and you, had no way to ever access that text because it was just a personal dedication from a royal, not a royal, but from a noble towards someone of their class. Reading and theater and almost that kind of stuff until the printing press happened, until obviously the days of Shakespeare, was quite an exclusive, quite a royal privilege. That's why people were illiterate, people couldn't read. But again, as you mentioned, the consumption is pretty much with that. And I am actually a bit scared of that because, you guys mentioned with the rise of technology and Elon Musk's brain chip, to continue this absurd allegory. But, what if people who are able together, only the elites, the richest of the rich, they're the ones who get to experience all the new technology, we get to experience all these new luxuries, and stuff like reading and listening to music just becomes something that is just exclusive to them. And
yeah, probably. I mean, okay, so two things. When it comes to the past, besides obviously being able to have access to the books, like you said, that the elites would have had, the only things that existed were oral narratives, right? Or you might go to the theater or anything of that along that line, and you would consume media in that way. I mean, we still do that kind of, but on a different format. We'll consume memes and TikToks or whatever. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just a different format, right? But now most of the world is literate, so we have way more options to consume whatever we want. And the other argument I wanted to make is, I think it's going to go the same way as iPhones. So when iPhones came out, only a fair few could afford them. They're like the prestige luxury to have, and they still kind of are, because they're pretty pricey, to be honest with you, right?
That's just because of the brand. That has nothing to do with them being affordable for actual logical reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
You can buy high-end phones now for pennies. You just don't have the stupid Apple logo on them.
That's right. And you probably have I'm not going to say what it is, but you have a phone that's probably better than an iPhone, and you've probably got it for a much more affordable price than me and Ivaylo have, right?
Yeah, arguably.
So, but the thing is, that's what I want to talk about. The brain chip, like Ivaylo said, it is an absurd analogy, but I mean, only for a little while. I mean, look at Elon Musk. A lot of the stuff he retweets and says sounds a bit absurd to begin with, and then people start taking him seriously. Even with his block car that came out 2 years ago, that looked like a 4-year-old kid had drawn it in school. Sorry, I don't mean to offend any of the Tesla designers, but I think that's what's going to happen.
There goes the sponsorship.
There goes the sponsorship. Please, no, come on, Elon, sponsor us.
If we ever get to the point where Tesla's sponsoring us, we're just going to shut down the podcast anyway, don't we?
Yeah, probably. So yeah, that's what I want to say. I want to hear what you guys think about this, but I think what's going to happen with future technologies, with some of them we probably don't even know what they're going to be because they haven't been invented or developed yet, is that maybe at the start they're only going to be available to the elites and to the people who can afford them. But then eventually,
that's how everything has always worked. Toilets used to be a thing that only like 10 dudes in the city had.
Yeah.
Right, but I think what's happened is that the duration between the start point and the point where it's come into common consumption has gotten shorter and shorter over time.
Oh yeah, no, because it has to, especially in a modern capitalist society. You can't. Yeah. People need to buy your product, otherwise your product means nothing. If you're only selling to a few specific people, exactly.
Absolutely.
So like you can't really have that situation happen the way it used to, because there's no prestige to it. The thing they do now that sells things is, here's the new model, here's the model that's this color, here's the model that has this specific feature. It's not really, only a few people can buy this thing. No, it's, if you want the special one that no one else has because you're a weird collector like someone we know that I think is crazy, then you have to cash up more money,
Yeah, and I absolutely agree, man. It's very sad. I mean, it's not really sad, but like the way technology advances these days is just, I mentioned at the start, I remember the very first mobile phone my parents had, this huge, giant antenna-looking thing, which at the end of the day, if someone came up and mugged you, you can like take it out and just smack him over the head, and that's pretty much them done. To now having this little kind of computer in my hand, it's quite fascinating how quickly in the space of like 20 years that's happened. And
I mean, back when I lived in Romania, my first phone was like an old Nokia, like the ones that you see the memes of. This thing could survive anything.
The unbreakable Nokias.
Yeah, so like I do remember that. Obviously,
it's quite a jump. But it's. If you guys think that, like, I don't know, let's go even more absurd since we're on Elon Musk's ass. If you guys think traveling to Mars is going to be available to all the common people, you're just very mistaken, in my opinion. For a while,
I wouldn't want it to be. I don't want to go there until people have gone and beta tested the planet for me.
Yeah, but like, think about
oh no, Jimmy got a first class ticket and died on impact when the parachutes failed. Thanks, Jimmy. Now we know how to make the parachute better.
But Ivaylo, you make a good point that just like early colonization, maybe it was only available to a fair few until I don't know, maybe penal colonies became a thing. But in the same vein, once if we do hopefully ever go to Mars and start colonizing it, and once it becomes a developed colony, like I don't think I'll ever leave Earth to go to
I don't think
Mars at
it's
least,
gonna happen in my
right?
life. Yeah.
Unless,
I mean, even if I could, it's not appealing. Those places will take a long time to either terraform or be worth anything. You don't want to live in the desert sands of Mars.
Right, exactly. It'll be like the Wong family from Futurama, all of the casinos. But if the technology existed, right, this is the point personally I want to make, that if the technology existed, that I didn't have to travel in physical form, right, that I could upload my mind to a cyborg and then just travel for the speed of light to wherever I wanted to go, which is this sci-fi thing that obviously is just a fantasy. Then maybe, yeah. But unless the technology exists, I'm kind of pretty. I mean, I personally, I'm not afraid of flying, but I don't prefer to fly.
I'm gonna play the audience for a second. Can you guys stop your tangent about Elon Musk's brain chip and please go back to physical versus digital media? Because I don't know what we're talking about.
Could never be me, but
no, it could never be any of us.
To say, I do admit, and I do know I'm probably fighting a losing battle. It's very emotional. But, it's made me sad that this generation of console was the first generation which, obviously, the PS5, there's an edition, a very cheap edition, which doesn't have a hard drive.
No disk drive.
That hurts my soul, simply because I have tons of my PS4 games, which, thank God there's backwards compatibility, and thank God I can still play my games when I get the PS5. But I imagine that, maybe in not the PS6, but maybe the PS7, PS8, we're gonna just encounter a completely hard, a completely diskless system, and I'm gonna be very sad when that day comes. And
we're gonna see Ivaylo's little heart break.
And
we're gonna record it for the podcast.
And we're gonna see my kids asking me, "Daddy, what are those round things you have over there?" And I'm gonna be,
"Daddy, can I use them as frisbees to play with the doggo?"
And I'm gonna be like, "What do you mean, the vinyls or the discs? Which ones?" It's quite heartbreaking, but at the end of the day, I still value them. I still think they're an integral part of our society, and I do think that collecting stuff, having hobbies, at the end of the day, for me it's a hobby. All of this collecting, all of this physical importance for me, it's just a hobby.
So that actually does bring up something I wanted to say, which is, because I don't see it as that for myself.
Yeah, I get you.
I don't like showing off my collection to people. I don't care. I don't care if people think I'm cultured
I don't
or
show
not.
it off, but like if someone comes and is like, "Oh, what's that?"
Yeah, no,
like,
also like you said, make conversation off it. I've never done that in my life.
No, I remember when I came over to yours and I saw like The Witcher 3. I was like,
Yeah,
you're
Witcher the
3.
only person I met who does that. We'll point at something in my room and we'll be like, "Hey, that's pretty cool." It's like, what are you talking about?
Wow, really, really, Lawrence?
What is this? This is so weird.
Fair enough. I mean, again, down to personal preference at the end of the day.
Also, can I just bring up a few more positives before we like close off or whatever? Back when Spider-Man for the PS4, that really good like Insomniac game came.
Yeah.
It was one of the games where I actually wanted it day one because I was really hyped for it. So I pre-ordered it and it pre-downloaded because that's an option now with digital. So when it came out at midnight, I was already home in my bed, nice and cozy, playing it immediately because it had reinstalled way before like the opening time where it was available to play. And that to me like completely justifies me giving up on physical media.
I was with my
just
sleeping
in bed
bag
waiting.
at the store.
I look at the clock and I'm like, yay, I can now play the game before some people have even gotten home with their disc. Nice.
It's okay.
And I think I'll add to try and justify my Elon Musk talk that I ended on. Again, with the way things are going, with people working from home, not being able to go out because of social distancing and just lockdown, it just becomes way more convenient to shop online, to just consume the things online.
Mm-hmm.
You can pretty much order anything nowadays and have it delivered to your door in a day or if not more. So whatever it is, no matter what it is, like, do you remember when Amazon had those buttons that you could press when you were running out of things? Now it's just a subscription that you can schedule for to be delivered, bi-weekly, monthly, or whatever. And anything from like basic essentials to anything else you want, you can have that. You can have that on a rota, and it will be delivered to you pretty much on time, and you don't have to even think about it. It saves you a lot of time. So the whole physical action of going out and shopping, retail stores and stuff like that, I think that's not, if obviously it's starting to plateau. You've seen, I think it's Boohoo starting to buy a lot of high street stores, but not wanting the physical stores themselves, wanting only the online presence. So I think what we're leaning towards is a very digital future.
Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, for us maybe, but for us it is unfortunate. But for the future generations that are going to be born into it, they're not going to know the difference.
I, for one, welcome our cyborg overlords.
Oh my
Please
god!
hurry up.
See, you mentioned the point about shopping, Joe, and I know this from my dad. My dad absolutely hates online shopping, and I kind of get it. Like, my dad needs to go out there. He needs to, like, see the tomato. He needs to, like, see the cucumber, He needs to touch it to make sure it's ripe. And I kind of...
Oh, God.
I kind of understand that, Like... I don't trust people handling my food for me. Like, I don't even eat takeaway that much because of that very reason. But, it's just... Again, I know it's the future. I know it's coming, and...
I mean, I'm glad that you don't like people touching your food. I'm glad your dad's in the shop fondling other people's tomatoes.
He doesn't fondle any food. It's okay. Just, we move. But...
Yeah, you make an interesting argument. The physical interaction is something a lot of
and I do think that, I do hope that, eventually just, like... In terms of personal connection, like, I do hope that, it doesn't get replaced completely by digital stuff, although, It's as long as it's real, as long as it's real, it's...
upload me to the Matrix and start downloading games right into my head.
Oh my god. So I reckon you guys are going to get the Elon Musk chip as soon as possible.
Oh, dude, I'm going to be like the tester. I'm going to be like, day one, I'm like, Master, please give me the chip.
I'm going to wait for the beta testers like Lawrence to go for it first before I download it myself and see how it goes. But yeah, probably, if I can afford it, I'll probably get a chip. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, again, I urge any of our listeners who still feel the same way that I do, who still want us to keep fighting, to just like, we'll have a poll. Just...
Yeah, we'll do a poll on Twitter to see which is better, physical or digital media.
To quote one of my biggest inspirations, who won?
Who won? So
it's-
on Twitter, and if I figured it out on Facebook, I haven't figured it out yet. Maybe by this point, you listening to this, I have. So go to the polls. We'll link it in the description box. We'll link it in the episode description on whatever platform you're listening to. Just expand the description and you can see the links. Click on the link and go and vote in the poll. We're very interested to see what you guys think.
Okay, so I have a few more things to say before we leave
Here
off.
we go.
Yep.
Number one, you didn't bring up a point against me that I really kind of wanted you to, which disappoints me greatly.
Oh, wow.
And that is
Jesus Christ.
nothing that you get digitally is actually owned by you. Now, this is an argument that is actually quite important. And my retort to it is literally, I do not care. There you go.
Okay.
I don't give a crap about owning media. I don't.
See,
I will consume it once, and if I really, really like it, I might go back and consume it more than
Because
once.
it's licensed to you, isn't it? It's just
and
licensed
if I don't, they can take it away. I don't
Well,
care.
let me
I've
ask
played
you
it.
a
I've
question,
finished
Lawrence.
it.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you trust the machine more than you trust yourself?
Because me is human.
Oh my God, Lawrence! It's okay.
There
it's
you go.
okay. This might be the last Faffing with friends. I'm joking. I'm not. I'm not.
Okay, so Lawrence makes an argument that I completely understand, and I also agree. Like, I don't care enough to say that. Oh no, a bunch of my stuff is not owned by me, right?
Yeah, I honestly, I expect Steam to last longer than me. I think it will outlive me. They're not going to take away my games in my lifetime because they're too successful.
Nonetheless,
Right.
there's a solar flare.
But on exactly.
Or the machine breaks,
on the other hand, if we ever have to end up like being in a bunker, like we kind of are now.
But if you reach that point, I don't think the thing on my mind is going to be, oh no, I can't play Bloodborne right now. It's,
Exactly.
Oh no, the solar flare caused the plane to fall on my dog. Like,
right, but that's an extreme example. But in that case, you like me, you have your books, like you guys, you have your books, and you've got your comic books and mangas, and you can pretty much keep yourself entertained. If technology, for some reason, like if it becomes environmentally inconvenient or something happens that you can no longer
I can
consume
stare at a
digital media.
wall. I can stare at a wall. And just
You know what,
talk to
Lawrence?
myself.
Go back to cave wall paintings.
Yeah.
You know, Lawrence, you pissed me off with your comment. Like, I have one question for you. Did you know that Bitcoin consumes as much energy as the Netherlands? As all of the
Yeah,
Netherlands?
because I'm
Argentina,
the person who
right.
shared that on the chat,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yes, I'm well aware.
Yeah, so...
Why would I care?
Well, because it's environmentally bad, bro.
Yeah, but most energy sources are changing to green soon. So
I
don't
mean,
care.
okay,
We'll
but until
live.
then, it's bad,
think
bro.
Nah, I'm good. I can make sacrifices.
Oh gosh, but yeah.
Okay, and last point, another thing we didn't really bring up. Since the advent of digital existing, in almost every industry, this is films, music, and especially video games, we've seen a massive rise in independent artists, which would not exist otherwise because they now don't have to be the kind of person who gets picked up by a publisher or gets an agent or someone sees them and finally goes, oh, I'm going to put you out there. No, people can put their music out there whenever and however they please. People can have a stupid podcast idea and do it with their friends whenever, however they please because of the digital existing. And video games have had a renaissance of beautiful indie games because companies that are small and could never have gotten their game published otherwise finally have distributor platforms that just allow them to digitally put it out there. They don't have to waste money on doing physical releases.
I kind of disagree because you still need live music to promote yourself. And right now, the reason why the industry is so bad is because we can't have live music shows and people can't go and promote their music. That's also a very important reason.
Okay, but how many sick-ass SoundCloud rappers that you've never
but how many of them actually
before?
make it big? That's my point.
It doesn't matter. My point is you at least can hear their music. There's a time where you couldn't. If someone didn't give you a physical distribution, your art would die in your basement.
I mean...
And there's also the option of supporting these artists by buying their digital media.
Exactly, directly. Like, I can go buy, one of our friends has a band. We might talk about that later again. We can go listen to and support them ourselves because, they can just upload their stuff to all these different services. Like, we're uploading our podcast to every single service, you can imagine.
This is going to be the first episode where someone's actually walked off the podcast. This has been a Ivaylo. I'm joking.
And also with the artists...
Run, you coward, run!
No.
Also with the artists, one compromise you can make is that you can buy their merchandise, which is physical form. So you're supporting them in both ways, both the digital media and the physical media.
I think the best solution to this for me personally is if we continue what we have now and that is the coexisting of them both. I do value my physical stuff, and I do.
Well, I'm not going to take them away from you, Ivaylo.
Good. I just want them available, Lawrence. That's the thing. I want them available to me. Because if the option
you're
is
allowed
there,
to have your collection.
Good.
You're allowed to have your weird wall of like when people come over, you're like, look at it. Are you not impressed?
I never say that, but if someone mentions it, I'm like, oh yeah, how nice of you to notice, But
like he might have like a spotlight in his room pointed at the shelf. It's like, how nice of you to notice this perfectly in the middle, parallel placed, highlighted thing.
The Very Odd Parents meme was like, this is where I would put my physical media if I had some.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I hope for coexisting, and I love my physical media. I know we're living in the technology world, and I'm not taking away anything that technology has done in terms of exposure, in terms of artists. Hell, without technology, we wouldn't be doing this flipping podcast.
Exactly.
So, that's my final take. I bid you all a good night. It's been a Ivaylo. I'm going off.
And my final take is that several hundred years ago, you would have had to go to the Globe and stand in the cold for 2 hours just to see some entertainment, right? Which you could still do that. I mean, not now, but when things are open again.
I love the Globe.
I love the Globe too. I've been to the Globe.
We've all gone and
it's
stayed
a great
in the
experience. But probably for every single media consumption, I wouldn't do that. Like, imagine having to consume Breaking Bad by going to the Globe. Like, do you know how long that would have taken? But like, you can go and watch a Shakespeare play now.
I am the one who knocks.
Exactly. So you can go and watch a Shakespeare play now, online or stream it, whatever adaptation that you want, and it's crazy that you can do that, and you couldn't do that 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? And I only bring up Breaking Bad because I want to announce that I've actually finally watched the whole show.
A round of applause, everyone. A round of applause.
Another thing ticked off the list.
Okay, so my final thought is, like I said, I'm not going to take it away from anyone. If you enjoy being a physical media person, you go ahead and collect that stuff. But for me personally, I am very happy going as much digital as I can and making exceptions for things I really, really love or like. And I wouldn't blame someone, who's like into DJing, for example, for owning a lot of like records, because that's awesome. It helps your hobby as well. Like, you're using them for creating mixes and doing music and stuff. So I totally get, circumstances. Go ahead, have as much physical media as you want. But for me personally, I don't enjoy media enough to do it myself anymore. I'm super on the digital train. Choo-choo, here, upload me into the Matrix, please.
Oh my god. Fair enough.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
this has been Faffing with Friends, two red-pilled guys against a blue pill.
Please don't.
I am just gonna go and do something else with my time. I love you all. This has been Ivaylo signing out. Goodbye.
This has been Joe.
And this is Lawrence. As you can see, we finally broke Ivaylo. If you want to do further damage, please, when we put out the poll, make sure you vote digital.
Vote digital, and please like our video, like our episode. Please share it with your friends and family and anyone you can find. Randy, your fourth cousin twice removed. And subscribe to us. Make sure you ring the bell, because if you don't ring the bell, how are you going to know we've uploaded a new episode, even though we only upload every Monday? And just continue supporting us. We love you. We're very grateful for all the support that you've shown us, and we could
You'll never take it from me. It's mine.
Bye.
Bye.